Designed to appeal to man's best friend. Let your dog sit around TV and be stimulated and entertained by the exciting movements and objects. Or simply chill them out with soothing sounds and images. Just sit back and enjoy the fun of watching TV with your pooches. Dog TV, Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 on ViuTVSix. Provocative stories that have changed lives. Insightful interviews with notable figures from the worlds of news, politics and entertainment. ViuTV6 brings you one of the most esteemed news magazines, ABC News 2020, Sunday night at 9:30 on ViuTV6.
希望今年可以带我的学员得到冠军。
The all-new season of Ogawa Master Drive proudly presents Sing China.
Hi there, and thanks for joining us for this late edition of ViuTV News. I'm Patrick Falk. Coming up, Hong Kong's press baron Jimmy Lai accepts an offer to sell a slice of his media empire in a $500 million deal. Ex-Chongqing boss removed from office and under investigation. Xi Jinping's ally is replacing him. And reaching out to Pyongyang, South Korea is proposing military talks with the North this Friday. Okay, we begin locally with news press media group Next Digital is to sell off most of its magazines. Owner Jimmy Lai has agreed to a $500 million deal, which will include the popular Next magazine as part of the package. According to documents from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, the local media giant will bag $320 million out of the arrangement. The balance will be kept as an investment in the 5 magazines being sold. In a letter to staff, the group said the offer came from W Brothers Investment, a financial firm wholly owned by businessman Kenny Wee. We previously owned the Metro Daily until he sold it to another financial group earlier this month. Well, earlier this evening, I spoke with Joe Larby, who told us more about the significance of this deal.
Well, a $500 million $500 million Hong Kong dollar deal, 180 of that to be put aside into the magazines. But Jimmy Lai, a very interesting character, a prominent democracy advocate in Hong Kong, and only a few years ago was quoted on radio by saying he would be a jerk for selling off his media empire, which he's done today. So leave that to you to decide where he stands there. But understandably, though, employees have been a little bit shocked by this. This announcement came this morning. The shares were suspended. And over the last couple of weeks, Next has actually been taking quite an aggressive stance in cost cutting. Employees were told a few weeks ago that they would be turned into freelancers, and they ended up striking as a result. So perhaps a good financial move for Next, but no telling where this leaves the future of the magazine industry here.
Joe Larby speaking to us there a little bit earlier. Now, 3 more protesters were found guilty of rioting over the Mongkok clashes early last year, bringing the total number of convictions to 7. District Court Judge Frankie Yiu identified the trio by their clothing and the glass bottles they were holding in a police video. He said they were clearly actively involved in the protests and were trying to obstruct police officers from clearing the scenes violently. They're now remanded in custody until August 7th. Meanwhile, 2 others were acquitted after prosecutors failed to prove they took part. Well, not a dry day for Hong Kong today. The red rainstorm warning went up as the city experienced heavy downpours for most of the day. The observatory issued the warning at 8:45 p.m. That showed the volume of rainfall exceeded 50 millimetres per hour in many parts of the city. It was particularly wet on the island east, Kowloon and New Territories east. Authorities actually dropped all warnings late in the afternoon, but issued them again, saying the rain's likely to go on. Turning to the mainland now, where sources say a senior Chinese official who is considered a contender for top leadership has been put under investigation. State media reported that former Chongqing Party chief Sun Zhengchai has been replaced. As Samantha Vardas reports, this all comes ahead of a Communist Party Congress in autumn, during which Xi Jinping is expected to cement his grip on power.
As Beijing gets ready to choose new top leaders, a potential candidate in the city of Chongqing has been put under the spotlight. State media making an abrupt announcement over the weekend saying Sun Zhengcai had been removed as party chief and replaced by an official close to President Xi Jinping, who's been on an anti-corruption crusade since he took power. Reuters' Ben Blanchard explains why Sun is in the crosshairs.
Sources have told Reuters, including sources who are briefed on the investigation, that he's currently undergoing investigation by the Communist Party for suspected serious breaches of discipline. Now, this could be anything from bribery to doubting key party policies. We just don't know at the moment. It seems also at the moment that this investigation is in an initial stage. And it's possible that they may not actually go ahead with a formal investigation.
Diplomatic sources say Sun was scheduled to visit Europe recently, but that trip was cancelled. His last public appearance noted by state media last Wednesday, Beijing is yet to announce what's become of him.
And for more analysis on this story, we turn now to our Beijing correspondent, Dan Epstein.
Well, it's not too clear exactly how or why Sun Zhengcai has been removed. Some say he may have violated some sort of party discipline and is likely a target of an investigation. He was also mysteriously absent at his handover ceremony on Saturday, in which it was announced that Chen Ming-er would be replacing him. This is very unusual. The protocol is normally to praise the work of the predecessor and then introduce the new party boss. He was also at a very top position. He was the party boss of Chongqing, China's fourth biggest city, and many saw him as a likely candidate to be elected to China's Politburo Standing Committee, the members of which will be announced at the 19th Party Congress near the end of the year. But now the position is open for his replacement, Chen Ming-er, who's also a protege of President Xi Jinping.
And Epstein there in Beijing. Now, South Korea has proposed military discussions with North Korea to try and halt hostile activities near their joint border. The talks, scheduled for Friday, would be the first at a government level since late 2015. The proposal comes about a week after President Moon Jae-in said the need for dialogue with the North was more pressing than ever to curb Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs. Vice Defense Minister Soo Chu-suk said Seoul asked Pyongyang to restore military communication lines as a response to the plan. For more details, here's Joseph Kim from Seoul.
South Korea's defense ministry announced it proposed talks with North Korea in an attempt to ease growing tensions amid Pyongyang's rapidly advancing missile and nuclear program. If accepted, the talks would be significant because it'd be the first time military authorities between the two countries have met and talked since 2014. Another reason it'd be significant because it would work to re-establish a direct line of communication that was severed under impeach President Park Geun-hye. Now, separately, Seoul also proposed Red Cross talks to restart family reunions for families that were separated during the Korean War. But all of this is a continuation of the overtures of South Korean President Moon Jae-in, who said it during his campaign as well as recently during the G20 summit, where he stressed that dialogue is key to making a permanent peace treaty between the two countries, as well as creating a denuclearized Korean peninsula.
Joseph Kim in Seoul. And turning to Malaysia now, where customs officials seized $70,000 worth of ivory products at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Authorities arrested a 44-year-old Vietnamese man after discovering the haul on him at the arrival hall. Malaysia is considered a global transit point for the illicit ivory trade. Just earlier this month, authorities here in Hong Kong seized more than $9 million worth of tusks smuggled from Malaysia. It was the largest seizure of its kind in 3 decades. Reports say a military court in Jordan sentenced a soldier to life imprisonment with hard labor for premeditated murder. Mariq Salem, seen here entering the defendant's cage, was accused of killing 3 U.S. military trainers at the gate of a major airbase last year. The case had led to tensions between Washington and its Middle Eastern ally. Jordanian authorities claim the trainers were shot after their car failed to stop at the gate of the base. But Washington rejected that account. Jordan hosts hundreds of U.S. contractors in a military cooperation program. They use Jordanian airfields to hit IS positions in neighboring Syria and to protect its borders. Up next, the latest from the world of business. Okay, to China first, where the economy is faring better than expected. Second quarter growth figures have topped forecasts and, at least for now, show there's still some life left despite a predicted slowdown. Ryan Brooks reports.
A better-than-expected report card for China's economy, holding steady at 6.9% growth from April to June. Analysts figured the world's #2 economy would lose momentum because Beijing's trying to contain some major risks. But for now, the usual suspects have kept things on track. Factory output and retail both growing at a fast clip. And while exports have recovered and property construction is booming, many expect policies later this year will stunt growth as Beijing tries to rein in surging housing prices and a rapid buildup of debt, which has ballooned to a dangerous 277% of the country's GDP. But a spike in worldwide demand for Chinese products could help ease that load. And with 2 quarters of expansion hitting higher than Beijing's target for the year, the government may find lower growth in the second half easier to swallow. Officials have been working to keep the economy at a pace, at least until this autumn's Communist Party Congress to choose China's top leaders.
Now, despite those encouraging growth numbers, China markets were rattled, and it's got a lot to do with Xi Jinping's stern message to the nation's central bank. The president addressed a twice-in-a-decade conference calling on the People's Bank of China to play a bigger role in managing risk. Investors might be reading that as a sign of more regulation. This closed-door meeting also saw the government announce the establishment of a Financial Stability Development Committee. But at this stage, it's not clear what it will do or how it plans to make sense of the country's complex financial system. Now, while China's stocks were in the red, Hong Kong's market extended its winning streak to close at a fresh 2-year high. The Hang Seng Index making its 6th straight day of gains, adding 0.3%. The rise driven by a steady flow of money from the mainland along with its GDP figures. Next Digital, which announced it was selling off 5 big-name magazines, saw its share price spike almost 15% in the hours after the announcement. Uber's Asian operations have suffered another blow. The ride-sharing giant is pulling out of Macau. It'll suspend operations on Friday after an almost 2-year battle with regulators. Uber says it couldn't strike the right deal with authorities, which had previously hit its driver with massive fines. But this doesn't mean it's gone for good. The company hopes it'll be able to have more constructive conversations with regulators and find a way to operate again. Hong Kong operations aren't affected. Now, in an unprecedented move, the Mongolian government is cracking down on mining sites which just aren't up to safety standards. The problem is because of privatization. Many of those subpar setups are all some miners have. Kate King reports.